this seminar with lamp lighting ceremony. Lamp lighting ceremony is a ceremony considered to be very auspicious and is attached to lighting of lamp, and this light enlightens our mind and works with all of our heart and soul of betterment of human race. So I would like to call upon Professor Ravindra Patil Chauhan, Secretary of Education Society Naigaon, our Vice Principal Dr. Sham Patil, Mr. Amit Kumar Pandey, IQAC Coordinator, and Dr. Vaibhav Kaude, NAC Coordinator. I request all of you to come forward and please light the lamp. This lamp lighting ceremony is much attached with a devotional touch, and it is symbol of diminishing the darkness with the light of our knowledge so that we can be energetic for the betterment of mankind. Now, I would like our Vice Principal, Dr. Sham Patil sir, to lighten the lamp.
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Asatoma Sadgamaya Mrutyonmay Amrutangamaya.
Now, the IQAC Coordinator, Mr. Amit Kumar Pandey, lighten the lamp. Now, Professor Dr. D.D. Panpatte sir, lighten the lamp. And Dr. Nangre sir, lighting the lamp. Thank you, sir. I express my thanks for all the participated dignitaries. Thank you. And now I hand over the mic to Mr. Amit Kumar Pandey. Thank you, sir. Pandey, sir.
अनम्यूट कर दो सर. Pandey sir जी.
Yeah, sir.
Okay, आवाज clear.
इनकर सर फिनिश हो गया. अंजनीकर सर.
Yes, sir. Continue.
Yeah.
Yes,
Morning, sir. Pandey
yes,
sir.
sir.
Good,
You are audible, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Pandey sir. Good morning.
गुड मॉर्निंग टू एवरीवन। अब हम प्रोग्राम को स्टार्ट करेंगे आज। मैं अमित कुमार पांडे, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर एंड हेड डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स, शरद चंद्र कला वाणिज्य व विज्ञान महाविद्यालय नायगांव एवं शिक्षण महर्षि गुरुवर आरजी सिंधे महाविद्यालय परंडा की तरफ से इस राष्ट्रीय सेमिनार में आप सभी सम्मानित अतिथियों का हृदय की गहराइयों से स्वागत करता हूं। विशेषतः मैं महाविद्यालय की तरफ से आज के सेमिनार के उद्घाटक डॉक्टर डीएम मूले जी, माननीय सदस्य राष्ट्रीय मानव अधिकार आयोग भारत का हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं। कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि प्रोफेसर मुक्ता महाजन मैम, डायरेक्टर स्कूल ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस स्टडीज एंड रिसर्च सेंटर नॉर्थ महाराष्ट्र यूनिवर्सिटी जलगांव का मनपूर्वक स्वागत करता हूं। मैं कार्यक्रम की विशिष्ट अतिथि श्रीमती ज्योति अग्रवाल जी, उप सचिव छत्तीसगढ़ मानव अधिकार आयोग का मनपूर्वक स्वागत करता हूं। कार्यक्रम के सम्मानित अतिथि श्री रविंद्र चौहान जी, सचिव एजुकेशन सोसाइटी नायगांव का मनपूर्वक स्वागत करता हूं। मैं वीपी तिवारी जी, प्रोफेसर महाराष्ट्र नेशनल विश्वविद्यालय नागपुर का इस एक दिवसीय राष्ट्रीय सेमिनार में स्वागत करता हूं। मैं डॉक्टर दीपा सावले जी, प्रिंसिपल शिक्षण महर्षि गुरुवर आरजी सिंधे कॉलेज परंडा एवं डॉक्टर के हरिबाबू सर, प्रिंसिपल शरद चंद्र कला वाणिज्य व विज्ञान महाविद्यालय नायगांव का हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं। मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की तरफ से सभी प्रतिभागियों का इस सेमिनार में स्वागत एवं अभिनंदन करता हूं। मानव से जुड़ा एक ऐसा मुद्दा है जिसके बिना एक स्वतंत्र, भयमुक्त एवं विकसित समाज की कल्पना करना असंभव प्रतीत होता है। भारत सरकार लगातार इन पहलुओं पर आवश्यक कदम उठाती रही है एवं राष्ट्रीय मानव अधिकार आयोग एवं राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग जैसी संस्था इन अधिकारों को सुनिश्चित करने में अग्रणी भूमिका निभाती रही है। अब हम महाविद्यालय के प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर के हरिबाबू सर से विनम्र अनुरोध करते हैं कि आप सेमिनार की प्रासंगिकता पर संक्षिप्त प्रकाश डालें। सर।
Yeah. Good morning. Am I audible?
यस सर, यस
Mr. Pandey. Yes. देशमुख सर, मेरी आवाज आ रही है ना?
जी सर, जी सर।
Yeah. Okay. Right. Very warm good morning, and you are all welcome to this one-day national webinar on human rights, a topic which attracted so many across the country. There are participants almost around 200 and above have registered for this webinar, and Punjab, Bengal, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, and Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh, even from Telangana and Andhra, from far off places, people have taken interest in participating in this seminar. That itself shows what attracts them is the topic and also the high profile guests who are going to address this, these resource persons who are going to address this webinar. It's a joint venture which is as part of the MOU, our college, Sharad Chandra Degree College, has struck a deal with SMGRR Shinde Degree College, Paranda, a very, very prestigious college. So we have struck a memorandum of understanding, and Mr. Dr. Manesar, IQAC coordinator of Paranda College, and Mr. Amit Pandeji is the IQAC coordinator of our college. This is a joint venture. Okay, I also, welcome Dr. Deepa Savle, ma'am, and also thank her for giving consent to hold this, seminar together. And then Dr. Gnaneshwar Mules, who has been a very, very, reverend person, highly professional, and an exponent in human rights. And there are so many feathers in his cap, which, of course, one of when Mr. Pandey sir introduces him, we will come to know the stature of this man. Okay, this high-profile man is a member of Dr. Mulesh sir is a member of National Human Rights Commission. Okay, I am also very anxious to listen to him. You're welcome here, sir. And Reverend Srimati Jyoti Agrawal. Okay. Um, uh, Ma'am is associated with judiciary, and also she's the she is also associated with Human Rights Commission of Chhattisgarh state. That's what I'm given to understanding. And we are very lucky, though at 11th hour, our Professor Dr. Mukta Mahajan ma'am is the director of School of Languages, Jalgaon, consented at the Professor Honorable Vice Chancellor of our university, Dr. Uddhavji Bhosle sir was supposed to come because all of a sudden he had to attend one ministerial level meeting at Mumbai. So he just expressed his inability to attend this. So in his place, a very right person, Dr. Mukta Mahajan ma'am has come. It has consented and she is going to address us. We are very lucky. And ma'am, you are welcome. And I also welcome Dr. Mr. Ravindra Patil, sir, is the Secretary, Education Society, NIGO. He himself is a lecturer and also a great administrator of our society. Professor Vijay Pratap Tiwariji is also going to address us, an exponent in law. He is from the law university itself of Nagpur University. All the participants, my colleagues, and other technicians who are working to make this webinar a big success. So, the theme of the seminar and high-profile guests have definitely attracted so many participants. So I'm really happy for the success of. I hope by the end of this, we'll all very is human rights and the impediments on its path in implementing these human rights. We will come to know. That's what. Amiji, I once again would like to confirm. Am I clear? My voice is clear. Please respond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Fine. So whenever and wherever at any part of the globe, any human being is deprived of his pursuit of happiness, then this issue of human rights, arises. So somewhere it is such a topic, it engulfs entire human race, right from its genesis to the present day, till today, and in the days to come. Atrocities in the form of many there is one two lines I would like to just read out from Telugu poetry, a very great poet from Telugu. He says, I'm going to, of course, I will translate it. ఏ దేశ చరిత్ర చూసినా ఏమున్నది గర్వ కారణం నరజాతి సమస్తం పరపీడన పరాయణత్వం. It's a part of the song, it's lyric. So when we scan through the history of any nation, what we see is there is an oppressor and there are oppressed. This is the actually crux of the findings that when we look at history through when we look at the world through history. So there is an oppressor and there is an oppressed. Who could be this oppressor and who could be this oppressed is very clear. You can, whether it is a class struggle, it is a racial discrimination or atrocities amongst against women and child abuse. So whenever there is an impediment of enjoying these human rights by anybody, any human being, the question of human rights arises. That's what I feel. Okay, going by Thomas Jefferson's, the architect of American War of Independence, the very first 2-3 lines, he makes it very clear that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all the human beings are endowed with, gifted with unalienable rights, that is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. These are the basic human rights. And these human rights, whenever they are threatened through wars, war is a political activity, but human rights are violated. Human lives are sacrificed there. We do not know whether it is a fought for a good cause or bad cause, because no war is for good cause. It created more problems than what it solved. We all know that. Both the world wars we have seen. Presently also, the world may be thrown into it is at the threshold of third world war. Some people are assuming it. So it is a political decision. But what is crushed is human right of every human being, who can live happily, who can pursue his entire pursuit of happiness throughout his life, and his life itself, and the liberty. All these things are at stake. World wars, human rights are violated. We can say racial discrimination, whether it is black and white, or their annihilation of human rights we see. Okay. And then we can also see the bourgeois and proletariat, that particular thing, the upper class.
Time.
Yes, upper class and lower class, there also there is an oppressor, the other one is oppressed. Child abuse is there. So okay, violation of human rights. Okay. And then atrocities or assaults on women, the fair sex. Okay. That is nothing but butchering human rights. Okay. So I mm, um, without see, what actually pains me that we have constituted commissions, human rights commissions across the world. We have formulated, we have legislated so many laws. They are also being implemented, but at every time, every corner of the world, at every place, okay, these human rights are annihilated. These human rights are at stake. Okay. So, without taking much of your time, I once again welcome all the guests. And then, I also would like to learn. This is a topic that interests me a lot. And once again, thanking both Mr. Dr. Manesar and Mr. Amiji for holding such a very useful seminar with the theme of human rights. I once again say salute all those resource persons of the day, and I hand over this stage to Mr. Amit, who is the compiler. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। आपने बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स को, ह्यूमन राइट्स वैल्यूज के ऊपर एक अपनी संक्षिप्त बातों को रखा है। निश्चित रूप से जो भी प्रतिभागी देश के विभिन्न क्षेत्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं इससे लाभान्वित होंगे और एक नई प्रेरणा को प्राप्त करेंगे। अब डायरेक्टली मैं डॉक्टर दीपा सावले जी मैम, प्रिंसिपल शिक्षण महर्षि गुरुवर आरजी सिंधे महाविद्यालय परंडा से अनुरोध करता हूं कि कृपया हमें संबोधित करें। मैम, आप कृपया हमें संबोधित करें। डॉक्टर दीपा सावले मैम, डॉक्टर दीपा सावले मैम।
मॅडम म्यूट आहे, तुम्ही अनम्यूट करा।
हॅलो मॅडम,
एक मिनिट मॅडम बोलले स्पीकर। हॅलो मॅडम, आवाज येत नाही तुमचा, म्यूट आहेत तुम्ही। हॅलो, हा म्यूट आहेत मॅडम, अनम्यूट करा। हा म्यूट आहेत मॅडम, अनम्यूट करा।
देशमुख सर, तुम्हीच म्यूट काढा।
सर इकडून काढलं मी. मॅडमला हे करावं लागेल.
तुमचं म्यूट आहे.
मैम आप म्यूट है, आप प्लीज अपने मोबाइल से अनम्यूट करिए.
हाँ मैडम अनम्यूट करा ना. हेलो.
डॉक्टर देशमुख को बाजू में जो सर है उनको फोन करके बोलिए, उन्होंने मैडम
हाँ सर देखते कॉल करता है, कॉल करते सर.
Can I hear you? Hello, Deshmukh sir. Hello.
आवाज येतो मॅडम.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all. As the principal of Shikshan Maharishi Guruvari R.G. Shinde Mahavidyalaya, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all at the opening ceremony of the one-day national seminar on human rights. Your participation shows your continued strong support to our institute. Our institute was established in 1986 and re-accredited with A grade in third cycle with CGPA 3.15. Presently, our college offers UG in Arts, Science and Commerce and PG in Botany. Also, we offers BHoc degree in Broadcasting and Journalism and Professional Accounting and Taxation under the UGC NSQF. Our college has 23 faculty members. Out of them, 18 faculty members have PhD degrees. Among them, 11 are research guides. More than 200 research papers published in international journals of high repute. 4 patents are granted and 4 are published by our faculty members. Our college continuously conducts various activities for benefit of students, faculty, and various stakeholders. Dear participants, today we gathered here for one-day national seminar on human rights. Every person has dignity and value. One of the ways that we recognize the fundamental worth of every person is by acknowledging and respecting their human rights. Human rights are a set of principles concerned with equality and fairness. They recognize our freedom to make choices about our lives and to develop our potential as human beings. They are about living life free from fear, harassment, or discrimination. These human rights are the same for all people everywhere, men and women, young and old, rich and poor, regardless of our background. Where we live, what we think, or what we believe. This is what makes human rights universal. Before concluding, I would like to convey my appreciation to the Management Council, members of both the institutes and resource person for their time and support in contributing of this seminar, as well as my colleagues for the organizing of this event in these challenging circumstances. I wish grand success to this one-day national seminar. I thank you all participants most warmly for your participation. Thank you.
थैंक यू मैम। आपने सबसे पहले इस सेमिनार के लिए आपने हमारे साथ कोलैबोरेशन के लिए आप एग्री हुई। हम महाविद्यालय की तरफ से आपका मनपूर्वक आभार मानते हैं। अब बहुत ही हर्ष का विषय है कि हमारे बीच में डॉक्टर DM मूले जी, माननीय सदस्य राष्ट्रीय मानव अधिकार आयोग भारत, जुड़े हुए हैं। सर, सबसे पहले मैं आपको प्रणाम करता हूं सर। मैं सर से अनुरोध करता हूं कि आप सर को स्पीकर व्यू पे लाया जाए। डॉक्टर DM मूले सर, सर हमारी आवाज सर पहुंच पा रही है आपके पास? डॉक्टर DM मूले सर, माननीय हमारी आवाज आपके पास पहुंच पा रही है? सर आप अनम्यूट हैं, सॉरी म्यूट हैं सर आप। देशमुख सर, माननीय सदस्य जी जुड़े हुए हैं लेकिन आवाज नहीं आ पा रही है। एक बार आप हेलो DM मूले सर। सर आप म्यूट हैं सर।
अनम्यूट करो सर। ओके ओके।
जी
So am I audible now?
Yes sir, clear.
जी
Yes.
जी सर, जी सर, जी सर।
And
Sir.
is my video audible?
जी सर, जी सर।
It is
What
visible.
I want to tell you is the host is not allowing to unmute. That
सर,
should be told to the host. That
जी जी
whenever speaker comes,
जी जी जी
either he should be allowed to unmute or you can unmute it from the center.
जी सर।
हाँ,
सर सर सबसे पहले प्रणाम करता हूं सर। थोड़ा सा देरी भी हो गया है सर आपके शेड्यूल के अनुसार, उसके लिए भी क्षमा प्रार्थी हूं। सर आपने इस महाविद्यालय में के सेमिनार में उपस्थित होकर जो आपने गरिमा हमें प्रदान किया सर, उसके लिए भी मैं मनपूर्वक आपका आभार मानता हूं एज ए संयोजक। सर बहुत ही हर्ष का विषय है कि सर इस सेमिनार में उद्घाटक के रूप में हमारे बीच में है, और इस सेमिनार की गरिमा सर की उपस्थिति से ही बढ़ जाती है, क्योंकि सर का जो कैरियर है इस क्षेत्र में जो है, मैं अभी आप लोगों के बीच में रखना चाहूँगा। तो बिना किसी देरी के मैं सर स्टार्ट करना चाहता हूँ। इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ ग्रेट प्लेजर दैट डॉक्टर DM मूले सर, ऑनरेबल मेंबर नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया, is present as the inaugurator of this seminar. We all are eager to hear him. Before sir's inaugural address, I would like to share a brief introduction of Dr. DM Mule sir to all of you. There is a lot to tell about sir, but I want to share some important achievement of sir with all of you. Dr. Mule sir is IFS officer of 1983 batch. He is a social worker, renowned author, motivator, and former ambassador and secretary to the government of India. He is known as a passport man of India because under his leadership, the country passport network increased from near 93 passport office to about 500 in 1920. He also simplified the entire process of passport application. As Consul General of India in New York, Dr. Mule coordinated the Madison Square Garden event of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji in September 2014. Further, as a Consul General, he undertook Swachh Consulate Abhiyan, which was replicated by the Ministry of External Affairs in all overseas embassies and high commissions. He also conceptualized and implemented a unique consulate at your doorstep as outreach effort to solve public grievances and help them to connect better with India. Besides, he also implemented a lecture series called Media India 2014 and directly answered people's queries through a monthly TV program called Ask Your Consul General. He founded the Indian Business Association in Moscow, Russia, and was its founder president for 2 years. The association celebrated its 25th anniversary in 2017. Dr. Mule created Maldives, Sri Lanka, and Indian trilateral strategic cooperation framework during his tenure as High Commissioner of India in Maldives. Also stabilized Indian Culture Center in Maldives in a record time of 2 months, despite some local opposition to the project. Besides doing the considerable amount of social work in Maharashtra, he has adopted 2 villages, namely Bastwad and Nilewadi in Kolhapur district, ensure their complete transformation since the flood-related damage in 2019. तो सर के पास सर का एक बहुत वास्ट अनुभव है, लेकिन मैं अब सर को ही डायरेक्ट मैं बुलाना चाहूंगा क्योंकि सर को सभी लोग सुनने को उत्सुक हैं। तो माननीय डॉक्टर DM मूले सर से मेरा विनम्र अनुरोध है कि सर आप इस सेमिनार को संबोधित करें। सर आपसे विनम्र अनुरोध है सर।
धन्यवाद मॉडरेटर जी। आज यहाँ उपस्थित डॉक्टर उद्धव भोसले जी, ऑनरेबल वाइस चांसलर SRTM यूनिवर्सिटी नांदेड़, डॉक्टर K हरिबाबू, प्रिंसिपल शरद चंद्र आर्ट्स कॉमर्स एंड साइंस कॉलेज नायगांव, डॉक्टर दीपा सावले, प्रिंसिपल शिक्षण महर्षि गुरुवर्य RG शिंदे महाविद्यालय परांडा, श्रीमती ज्योति अग्रवाल, मिस्टर रविंद्र चौहान, डॉक्टर विजय प्रताप तिवारी, डॉक्टर NP सानप, faculty, students, and dear young friends. It's a great pleasure. बहुत खुशी हो रही मुझे आप सबसे संवाद करने का जो मुझे सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ है, उसके लिए मैं आपके महाविद्यालयों का, आपके जो वाइस चांसलर उनका और अन्य लोगों ने जिन्होंने इसमें इनिशिएटिव लिया है, उन सबका मैं बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ। ह्यूमन राइट्स के बारे में डॉक्टर हरिबाबू ने कुछ अच्छी बातें आपको बताई और फिर उसके बाद हमने डॉक्टर दीपा सावले जी का भी जो वक्तव्य है उसको भी सुना। मुझे जो लगता है वो ये है कि जीवन का ऐसा कोई अंग नहीं है जिसमें ह्यूमन राइट्स का संबंध नहीं है। There is no dimension of life where human rights are not connected, particularly if you are living in democratic society. So it is very important, therefore, that colleges, schools, universities, social institutions, cultural institutions, industrial houses, factories, even religious organizations, they should all talk about human rights more frequently and train their people in human rights system. Because what happens typically, most people look at it from the legal point of view, career point of view, international relations point of view. But if you really wish to strengthen democracy, अगर देश को आप मजबूत करना चाहते हो किसी भी तरीके से, तो मानवाधिकार, ह्यूमन राइट्स को छोड़ नहीं सकते. So the first thing to remember, everyone, teachers, students, chartered accountants, doctors, lawyers, tech people, scientists, administrators, police. First thing to remember that without human rights, we cannot ensure the development of our society, of our country, and that without human rights and its protection, there might be a chaos, anarchy in any society. Why are the dictatorial regimes not able to create an empowered citizenry? उसका सिंपल रीजन ये है कि इन डिक्टेटोरियल और सेंट्रली कंट्रोल्ड सिस्टम्स ह्यूमन राइट्स आर ऑलमोस्ट सस्पेंडेड. there are no human rights. Some people decide the fortune and the destiny of all other people. In democracy, it is the people who choose their destiny through their own representatives. And this is a very, very important distinction. So it's not only the right to contest an election, in a sense, the right to vote also for a candidate. These two have to meet to ensure that we have good governance in our country, or any country for that reason where democracy is there. And as I said, in dictatorship, this is not something that is. There's a long history of human rights, even though the current narrative that we have is primarily a Western narrative, starting from the Second World War or so. But democratic practices are practices that have been devised for the welfare of people, have been quite ancient. We use the word Ramraj. Ramraj wasn't democracy, let's not mistake it. But Ramraj is the concept of an ideal governance system where the people are happy, every citizen is happy, every citizen is performing his or her duty, and there is a general sense of well-being among the people. That is the concept of Ramraj. So there have been kings, even you must have seen, I would call Gandhi's leading the independence movement as one very good example of how human rights movement has to be led. Freedom is an important political and civil right. Fighting for that cannot be construed something that is anti-government, because it's part of the basic right. And basic rights, human rights, are supposed to have come from the natural rights. So there is this whole theory as to कहाँ से आए ये मानवाधिकार, क्या जरूरत थी. तो उसकी रीजन ये है कि these rights are enshrined, ingrained in nature itself. You have seen a bird, let's take a crow or a sparrow. It has a right to fly. It has a right to go anywhere. It can collect its own food. It can build its own nest. Similarly, even though human beings have evolved in through civilization, it is believed that we need these freedoms, these human rights, because they exist in nature. It is not a favor done by any government, any leader, any political party, or even United Nations. It is something that is supposed to be natural to us, and this principle has been enshrined in many books and theories as to where these come from. Not only Gandhiji, there were people like, I would say, Dr. Ambedkar, Rajarshi Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj, Mahatma Phule, Ram Mohan Roy, any number of reformers we have had in India, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. These people have not used the word human rights, but they have worked on human rights, because this particular expression, as we understand today, did not exist. Languages evolve, concepts evolve, and as you know, language comes first, grammar is made later. Similarly, practice of human rights is has been there for centuries. It is the first time that after Second World War, the world came together and tried to codify the human rights. And that is where you have this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For us, that's an important document because we have also been a party to it. We have signed many covenants, conventions, and we have ratified many of them. With some of them we have not ratified also. But it will happen eventually or not happen. That will be decided upon the sovereign rights of a particular government. So the first thing that we need to remember is human rights is not new to human. All of India has seen a long tradition of saints. Who were these saints? In my view, they were also reformers. We see them only in religious perspective. But let us also try and see their human rights contribution to India. Say, I'm from Maharashtra and these two colleges are from Maharashtra. So let's take the example of Jnaneshwar, Sant Jnaneshwar, okay? Sant Jnaneshwar. ये मेरा नाम भी है संत ज्ञानेश्वर. संत नहीं है मेरे नाम में, लेकिन संत ज्ञानेश्वर के नाम से मेरा नाम ज्ञानेश्वर. Okay? So what is his contribution? Number one, he broke the monopoly of the Sanskrit language, which held till that time or claimed to hold monopoly on knowledge and information. He broke that. He broke that and he made that knowledge available, which was so far restricted to the common man. He, in a sense, the saint poets or the bhakti people, they were the first to break the traditional mold and monopoly and gave everybody the right to language, right to information, right to share cultural assets. And we might not understand its importance today, but in those days it was revolutionary. When Sant Jnaneshwar writes Jnaneshwari or Jnaneshwari in Marathi, he has done a revolution. For his people, he has opened ज्ञान का भंडार खोल दिया उन्होंने लोगों के. ये बहुत बड़ा contribution है, and that is why he was able to bring the knowledge to every person. And then you have a long tradition that people felt confident. The second thing that this saint poets brought the kind of revolution is that they established direct contact between man and the ultimate. You can call him God, you can call him divine, you can call him by any name. We have millions of names for gods. So these saints broke the agents, brokers who were sitting there and holding. They were they had declared themselves to be, go between to the gods, for going to the gods. Without them, you cannot reach the God. But the saint poets declared that, well, they have right to God and they will worship the way they want to worship. So they, and they claim direct way to heaven, direct way to mukti, their own way. This is also revolution, because people were earlier kind of trapped in thinking that you have to only go through certain people, certain kinds of chanting and mantras, which you don't understand. You have to do certain yagyas, you have to do certain rituals to achieve that. So this is also because breaking ignorance and establishing right to divinity or right to mukti itself was a revolutionary concept in those days. So you have South mein Adwar saints have been there. You have people like Chaitanya Prabhu, Narsi Mehta, Kabir. They all actually were nothing. They were a beautiful expression of human freedom and human rights. We have to understand it that. And we have a rich tradition and heritage of human rights contributors. It doesn't start in the modern times. It has been there for certain. For example, let's say in Mahabharata, you see that after sunset, both parties used to withdraw in the camps. And they also used to go and inquire about each other's health. They used to help them in having the medicines or bandage, whatever it is. And they used to eat together. So there have been certain interesting, now if you see that you don't see those practices being followed in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia, despite our progress. So to say that we have achieved ultimate in human rights today is also a kind of a myth. UDHR, or Universal Declaration of Human Rights, broadly categorizes these into political and civil rights, social, economic, and cultural rights. And yes, these are divisions, but it is not, in my view, human rights is not limited to this. To get a better idea about human rights, my friends, I request you to read, if you have already read, reread the preamble of the Indian Constitution, if not the entire Constitution. In my view, Indian Constitution is a further progression from the UDHR. It is a kind of a local application, as we can call it. UDHR is a general document for the universe. Indian Constitution is, in modern terminology, it's a national application, app. We can call it, it's our app to human rights. It's our key to human rights. So to understand Constitution from the dimension of human rights, in my view, is the most important thing about Constitution. Today, a number of films are being made on different aspects of Constitution and contribution of Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar. So he was certainly the head of constitutional, drafting committee. And what they did is fascinating exercise in how to evolve a human rights oriented constitution. So in preamble itself, it's very clear. Preamble is a capsule of the entire constitution, I would say. It's not only introduction, it's a capsule. And that capsule has everything that any student, any expert on human rights would like to practice, would like to learn. And today, NHRC is just a byproduct of the constitutional values. UDHR recognizes right to life, liberty, equality, and dignity. We have gone a step further and established in detail and enshrined in detail the rights to economic, social, and political justice. No country can progress without economic, social, and political justice. It's very, very important and apt. And it has been elaborated. There are, of course, freedom of faith, expression is there. We have right against discrimination. And all this, my friends, has to be then practiced. Human rights, my dear students, is not only for theory. If you want to see human rights implemented, protected, you have to protect and respect the human rights of others. It is not going, my human rights are not going to be preserved by myself. It has to be preserved by others. It has to be preserved by the government. Even though the primary responsibility of human rights protection is with the government, including in the law. We have this law of human rights protection, 1993, and this our commission was established under it. Ultimate responsibility lies, in my view, we, the people of India, we are responsible. So after 70 years, where do we stand? NHRC every year gets about 100,000 complaints. If I believe that everybody, in fact, most people in our country still does not know NHRC. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe 2% or 3% or 4% people might be knowing, 5% maximum people might be knowing about NHRC. So NHRC receives about 1 lakh complaints every year. And these are atrocities on women, atrocities on less privileged classes in the society, atrocities on children, violation of right to education, right to health services, a right to job, that is livelihood, right to employment, atrocities like kidnapping, extortion, murder, and no justice, no registration of FIRs. So, and of course, we also have these complaints regarding the custodial deaths and police custody. While we are able to get 1 lakh complaints every year, I do believe, my friends, that maybe there are, for every complaint that we receive, maybe 20 complaints, 30 complaints are never made to us. Because people are not aware. Number two, SHRCs are not very active. Often the state governments do not make appointments on an SHRC. For somebody in South India, NHRC is too far away. They perhaps don't know, they don't believe. There is a distrust between people and police. So that's why, and you see its impact at the ground level. You heard about Lakhimpur Kheri, where people were run over by some important person's son. Recently, somewhere else also similar thing happened. In newspapers, we have got used to news of atrocities, particularly on the less privileged classes. We get news quite often of political violence, religious violence, the atrocities on minorities, tribals. We discriminate against transgenders, third gender persons. We do not, despite having law, we do not create accessibility for our Divyangjan or the persons with disabilities. So we have, and still women are discriminated against in the job environment, outside the job environment. They often get less salaries, payments, even though there's an act that does not allow such discrimination. So the violation of human rights is rampant. And we are responsible along with the people who govern us. Because who governs us? We select our representative. But I think this is a very easy and convenient explanation that I am making. The more radical explanation or more correct explanation would be going back to the place from where we started. That is the Constitution of India. So if Constitution guarantees equality, justice, and freedom, why is it that we are not able to enjoy it? That is the question we need to ask as a human rights students, as human rights lawyers, as human rights experts, and as human rights teachers. So non-implementation of constitutional provisions, including the laws, including the rules and regulations, is a major reason for our not being able to protect the human rights of every person in this country. And mind you, a large number of people are not even capable of registering a complaint anyway. So, who has got the responsibility of protecting the human rights? The three branches: legislature, executive, and judiciary. Since they need to work better, and if they have to be efficient, we have separated them. The responsibilities are very clear. The duties are very clear. Now, in reality, what do we see? In reality, we see that all three have developed certain deficiencies, certain weaknesses, and certain inefficiencies over a period of time. And we are not addressing these, because only when we address them, our governance will improve. Governance is nothing but protection of human rights, whether it is right to education, whether it is right to food, right to shelter, right to water, right to employment. That's the implementation of laws. Good governance really means implementing of these things. So what I'm trying to say is the three branches on which the constitution is held, or on which is the responsibility of implementing the laws and the constitutional values, they have developed certain inefficiencies. Now, I'm not saying this just for the purpose of saying, just the way we say on the street, कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है, कोई काम नहीं करता है. The root cause has to be found out, and that has to be just like a doctor does with a patient. We need to also treat these. Now let's find out one deficiency in each of these three, because one can elaborate and elaborate and elaborate. And I request the moderator to tell me 3 to 4 minutes before that my time is up. So let's take legislature. Legislature is our parliamentarians, MPs, our MLAs, our local representatives in district level, Jila Parishad, block level. You will see that 40 to 45% of our legislators have criminal background. There are cases against them, 50%. And what are these cases? These are cases about extortion, rape, murder, kidnapping, even dacoity. Recently, we had only last week, we got the outcome of UP election, right? Now, UP election, the newly elected MLAs, 50% of them have criminal cases against them. This is a very serious point. Election Commission takes it and forgets it. Supreme Court has not been able to properly enforce its own directions. So this is just as long as a person is an MP or an MLA and there are criminal cases against him or her, that person is not going to be interested in enforcing law of the land. Write this somewhere, please, students. So electing good and qualified and those who believe in constitution and principles of equality, freedom and justice is the first duty of every citizen. This duty is not only towards parliament, this is duty towards human rights protection. I'm not going to go more about legislature. You understood what I'm trying to say. The second one, let's come to executive. The problem, executive means those people, cabinet, police machinery, administration machinery, from the top central level to the village level. These are the government machinery that is supposed to implement the laws of the country, laws of the land. Now, there are two major problems with this. One is huge inefficiency, and the other one is corruption. We all have faced it in our life. You don't feel like going to a police station for the simple reason that you know how it works. Even if there has been some atrocity against you, people don't want to go to the police station. People, unless they're forced, they don't want to go to even a government office because they know that there is no public friendliness, citizen friendliness. So how can things work in favor of protection? Where is the protection? Only when you pay, only when you are connected, only when you are leader, MPs or MLAs, your service will be provided fast. It doesn't work that way. So that is the problem with the executive. We all experienced that problem. This has gone even to the universities, where the universities are bureaucracy in the university. Bureaucracy is big conglomerate companies. Behaves the same way the government bureaucracy sometimes works. So they are not aware that efficiency is an important mark in protecting human rights. Justice delayed is justice denied. We say that. So this is with the executive. Now let's come to judiciary. Judiciary, number one, does not go through competitive exam process. Higher judiciary. Number two, lots of vacancies are there. At any given point of time, I don't know what percentage, but large number of vacancies are there. There are special courts created. They are not given mandate. They are not given budget. They are not appointed justices, not appointed on this court. And last one, I don't want to count the number of cases pending in the smaller courts, high courts, and Supreme Courts, everywhere. So the priority, for the judiciary becomes the highly sensitive cases only. But I would say that whether it is right to water, right to education, right to health services, right to food, this is also a sensitive matter. An individual, how can you deprive? And millions in our country are still deprived. So what I'm trying to say is we have to work very, very seriously. If we are keen about human rights, we have to seriously work on improving these three branches. How to do that? I'll give you only 1 minute message on that. That the people of this country have to become more legally compliant. It is sad that in our country, 1 or 2% people pay income tax. It is sad that most people in our country do not follow basic rules of sanitation, even now, and cleanliness. It is sad that we do not follow traffic rules. It is sad that we do not properly screen the candidates who contest elections. It is sad that we do not show adequate interest in our surroundings. So our rivers get polluted, our open grounds, playgrounds get encroached, buildings are not built up to the standard and they collapse and people die, sometimes in 10s and 20s. Monsoon and you'll see in Mumbai and in certain other places that just buildings collapse. So we have to have a responsible citizenry, and for that there is something called fundamental duties of the individual. So I'm not going to continue further. I would like to see that in this country of mine, yours and ours, individuals have to take responsibility of following the values of human rights. They have to take interest in their surroundings. They have to take responsibility towards improving legislature, judiciary, and executive with actions, with the relief, with the measures, instruments that have been provided in the Constitution, through the constitutional means only. I repeat this, because right to protest doesn't mean right to violence. Often our people think that there is a right to violence. No, there's no right to violence. Always what we call reasonable restrictions, even on fundamental rights. So follow the constitutional means, but be alert about protecting the human rights. With that, I will take a pause. I will wish you all the best. It's very important that you have organized this particular seminar on human rights issues. It has to go all over the country. It has to go to every college, every school, every society, whether every factory, every industry, every office. Only then we will get a responsible citizenry that will protect the Constitution of India. Thank you very much.
सर बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। आपने सर अपने बहुत ही कम समय में और लगभग ह्यूमन राइट्स के सभी पहलुओं को टच किया है। निश्चित रूप से जो भी प्रतिभागी देश के विभिन्न स्थानों से जुड़ रहे हैं उससे लाभान्वित होंगे और एक नई दिशा में सोचेंगे। खास तौर से मैं करना चाहता हूं क्योंकि अभी हम लोग का एक अर्ली कैरियर है असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर के पद पे कार्यरत होते हुए मैं आपके जब बायोडाटा को रीड कर रहा था आपके सम्मुख ही, तो मैंने उसमें एक चीज खुद पाया कि एक व्यक्ति सिस्टम में बदलने के लिए पर्याप्त भी हो सकता है, या सिस्टम को बदलने की दिशा में एक कदम तो बढ़ा ही सकता है। आपने जैसे पासपोर्ट मैन ऑफ द इंडिया एक 90 से लेके 500 तक आपने अपने कार्यकाल में बढ़ाया है। आपने अपने कार्यकाल में बहुत सारी चीजों को, प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस जो बनारस में मनाया गया है, आपने उसको एक नई आयाम तक उसको पहुंचाया जो है। तो मुझे खुद में एक ऐसी प्रेरणा मिली कि यदि हम भी कभी आप जैसे कुछ कार्य कर पाएं और वहां से कुछ सीख पाएं, तो आपके बायोडाटा से मुझे तो खुद ये प्राप्त हुआ है। और साथ में मैं लास्टली जब मैं कंक्लूड कर रहा था महाराष्ट्र के कोल्हापुर रीजन के फ्लड बाढ़ का, जब आपने जो उस पे था, आगे भी मैंने बायोडाटा आपका रीड आउट किया था, तो मैंने कहा कि आपका एक इंटरव्यू मुझे याद आया था कि जब आप अर्ली एज में IAFS ऑफिसर्स ज्वाइन किए थे, तो लोगों ने कहा था कि एक ऑफिसर जब कंट्री को बाहर चला जाता है कि अपने गाँव के साथ जुड़ पाएगा कि नहीं। लास्ट जो था आपने उसको सिद्ध किया है कि व्यक्ति चाहे अमेरिका की ऊंचाइयों तक जाए, लेकिन जब कोल्हापुर में बाढ़ आया तो आपने उसमें सरकार के साथ कदम से कदम मिलाकर के साथ दिया, और जो आपका इंडिविजुअल कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा जो है। तो मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि आज आप फाइनली NHRC के सदस्य के रूप में वहाँ पे हैं। हमें ऐसा उम्मीद है कि आप NHRC जो है अपनी ऊंचाइयों को एक बार फिर से ऊंचाइयों पे तो है, लेकिन एक नई शिखर के ऊपर आगे बढ़ेगा। और हमें पूरा विश्वास है कि आप के माध्यम से हम लोग अपने ह्यूमन राइट्स को सुनिश्चित करते हैं। और सर, हम डॉक्टर हरिबाबू सर हमारे महाविद्यालय के प्रिंसिपल सर कुछ कहना चाहते हैं सर, तो कृपया हरिबाबू सर प्लीज।
Yes, Amit ji, am I audible?
जी सर।
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. At the stroke of 12, I'd like to wish you good afternoon, sir. And it has been really wonderful. I appreciate your well-informed, information and your commitment and your audacious and uninhibited statements that you have made. So you refer to the legislation and also judiciary, where exactly certain these people falter and all. So we appreciate, sir. And really, we have learned a lot, sir. And thank you very much for accepting, from such a Mofizal area. We have invited you, and a man of your stature have come and spent this much of time, and and it is recorded, sir. We'll listen it again and again, and we'll definitely try to work with you, sir. And we also very often feel pain. You have touched, of course, everywhere where the human rights are, annihilated, including those false encounters also. I was expecting you, but you custodial death you mentioned. So in Telangana also we see so many cases happen. And I'm very happy that, man of your stature and taste, is at the helm of the affairs in human resources, the Human Rights Commission. I'm sure that, you should be there, sir, forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
थैंक यू हरिबाबू सर। सर, आखिरी में जाते जाते हो सकता है सर की व्यस्तता है, तो इस कार्यक्रम के बाद सर यहाँ से रिक्वेस्ट है, कभी भी महाराष्ट्र में सर आप आए तो निश्चित रूप से एक ऑफलाइन आपको सुनने का अवसर हम लोग यदि प्राप्त करें तो हमें और हमारे इस क्षेत्र को एक अच्छा लगेगा। तो हम निश्चित रूप से चाहेंगे यदि कभी ऐसा अवसर मिले सर, तो आप निश्चित रूप से हमारे आमंत्रण को स्वीकार करिएगा सर।
जरूर बिल्कुल। मुझे लगता है कोई डॉक्टर बाला साहब जी ने हाथ ऊपर किया है, उनको कुछ कहना है शायद, या पता नहीं गलती से उन्होंने हाथ ऊपर किया, कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं।
डॉक्टर बाला साहब सर, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं या आपका कोई प्रश्न है? हो सकता है सर गलती से सर के साथ।
And I see Gadamwar sir also has raised his hand.
Yeah, Dr. Gadamwar sir.
Is it about me? Then you can ask straight away if anything is to be asked. I think Gadamwar sir's not unmuted.
Yeah, the question.
Unmute.
मैं देशमुख सर से अनुरोध कर रहा हूं कि यदि जो रेज है जिसका, कृपया उनको अनम्यूट करें ताकि वो सर के साथ संवाद स्थापित कर पाए।
Sir, Dr. Gadawar sir is a social reformer, sir, and he is very much concerned with these human rights.
देशमुख सर,
I think the host is holding because individuals can't unmute unless the host permits. That is the signage comes and anybody tries to unmute.
डॉक्टर राहुल देशमुख सर, प्लीज आप गड्डमवार सर को अनम्यूट कीजिए सर।
देशमुख साहब ने अपना फोटो लगाया है कि नहीं पता नहीं। नहीं बोल पा रहे हो, बोल रहे हैं लेकिन उनकी आवाज नहीं सुनाई।
देशमुख सर आप ठीक है सर, अब हमको लग रहा है देशमुख सर भी हमारी आवाज नहीं सुन पा रहे हैं क्या? एक्चुअली हम लोग जॉइंटली ऑर्गेनाइज किए हुए हैं, तो देशमुख सर परांडा उस्मानाबाद से जुड़े हुए हैं, हम नांदेड़ डिस्ट्रिक्ट से जुड़े हुए हैं, तो इसलिए जो है सर ठीक है सर। अगेन बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर।
जो चाहते हो मेरे से संपर्क कर सकते हो।
जी जी सर,
So nice. So nice.
थैंक यू
वेलकम सर। It is a matter of pride that Professor Mukta Mahajan ma'am with us as a chief guest. Professor Mukta Mahajan ma'am currently working as a director, School of Languages Studies and Research Center, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon, Maharashtra. So directly I would like to request to ma'am, please address ma'am, please. डॉक्टर प्रोफेसर मुक्ता महाजन मैम को होस्ट करिए ताकि मैम संबोधित कर पाए शार्ट, क्योंकि इसके बाद ज्योति अग्रवाल। जी 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 मैम।
Am I audible, sir?
जी 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 मैम।
Am I audible, sir?
जी मैम, जी मैम।
Okay, thank you very much. Dignitaries on the dais and August Assembly, thank you for having me here as the part of your webinar. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be the part of this association. I think Dr. Moray has covered almost all aspects of human rights, the human rights, duties, responsibilities, and the purpose of human rights in his elaborate, studious, scholarly, and very outstanding comments. And his comments have opened up multiple avenues for the researchers of human rights. And considering the contemporary social scenario, I think it's high time to deliberate on human rights. And I congratulate the organizers for selecting the theme of human rights for this webinar. I thought of dealing with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as Dr. Moray has covered almost all points, I don't think there is point in repeating it again and again. And I wish all the best for the deliberations during this webinar. And I also would like to remind you that along with rights come the duties and responsibilities. So while talking about our own rights, we should be aware of the rights of other people and should not try to cross those rights. I once again congratulate the organizers, thank the organizers, and wish you all the best for the deliberations. Thank you.
Amit ji.
Sir.
Amit ji, ma'am has concluded.
Okay.
Ma'am, thank you very much.
धन्यवाद मैम, आपने बहुत ही शॉर्ट नोटिस में आपने हमारे निमंत्रण को स्वीकार किया और एज ए चीफ गेस्ट आप उपस्थित रही और एक नई दिशा में जो है आपने अपनी बातों को भी रखा। तो हम लोग नेक्स्ट सेशन की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं, तो शायद ज्योति अग्रवाल मैम जुड़ी हुई हैं। एक सेकंड मुझे चेक करने।
थैंक यू अमित सर।
जी मैम, जी मैम जी। तो मैम जुड़ी हुई हैं, तो वी आर लकी दैट श्रीमती ज्योति अग्रवाल जी जब ऑफ दिस सेमिनार एंड एवरी पार्टिसिपेंट्स वांट्स टू लिसन हर। सो मैम सबसे पहले तो मैं संयोजक के नाते अपने महाविद्यालय परिवार की तरफ से आपका इस सेमिनार में स्वागत करता हूं। आपने हमारे
थैंक यू सो मच सर।
स्वीकार किया जो है, और अपने व्यस्त कार्यक्रम में जो से समय निकाल करके आप इसमें उपस्थित हुई हैं, तो हम आपका मनपूर्वक अभिनंदन एवं स्वागत करते हैं। आपका लेक्चर के पहले मैं चाहूँगा कि मिस्टर अंजनीकर सर मैम का एक संक्षिप्त परिचय दें। तो अंजनीकर सर प्लीज।
Am I audible, Pandey sir?
जी जी जी।
Thank you, Pandey sir. Good afternoon to all and a warm welcome. Myself, Anjanikar SS, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry. On the occasion of this auspicious day, I feel privileged to introduce today's guest of honor for this seminar. As we all know, Judicial Services Examination is one of the most prestigious and difficult examination. It is a matter of pride to pass this exam. Today, we have one such special guest among us, who is Mrs. Jyoti Agrawal ji, giving her services by getting success in this prestigious examination. Mrs. Jyoti Agrawal ji was selected in Chhattisgarh Judicial Services in 2008. She firstly appointed on the post of Civil Judge 2nd Division and was promoted to the post of Additional District and Session Judge in July 2019. Ma'am did BSc in 2003 and obtained LLB degree in 2006. Now she is working as Deputy Secretary on the deputation in Chhattisgarh Human Rights Commission since October 2018. So we all are eager to listen from her. So without taking time, I hand over the mic to our today's guest of honor, Mrs. Jyoti Agrawal ji. Thank you. Pandey sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Shri Hari Babu sir. Thank you, Shri Savle madam. मैंने फर्स्ट डे अमित सर को कहा था जब उनसे बात हुई थी कि हम छत्तीसगढ़ मानव अधिकार आयोग की ओर से खुद ही आभार हैं कि हमें महाराष्ट्र डिस्ट्रिक्ट के कॉलेजेस में एक मंच प्रदान किया जहां पर हम अपनी कुछ बातें रख सकते हैं। हम लोग जनरली लॉ स्टूडेंट्स के बीच यदि संबोधन करते हैं तो सभी भारतीय संविधान पढ़ते हैं। भारतीय संविधान अब स्कूल में भी और कॉलेजेस में भी एक विषय के रूप में जोड़ा गया है। अगर हम ये बात सोचें कि ऐसा क्यों है कि भारतीय संविधान में जब मौलिक अधिकार सन 1950 से ही लागू हुआ है, तब क्यों इसकी आवश्यकता पड़ी कि 1993 में मानव अधिकार संरक्षण अधिनियम लागू किया गया, जबकि मानव अधिकारों के संरक्षण के लिए भारतीय संविधान में पूर्व से ही प्रावधान थे। हम उसमें जैसा कि श्री मूले सर ने बताया था हमें कि भारतीय संविधान में जो प्रियम्बल है, उद्देशिका है उसकी, उसमें यह बात लिखी हुई है, उसका शुरू ही ऐसा होता है कि हम भारत के लोग। जब वहां पर हम भारत के लोग की बात होती है, वो भारतीय संविधान है, वो भारतीय नागरिकों को जो अधिकार दिए गए हैं उससे संबंधित है। क्या हम यह मान सकते हैं कि हमारे देश में सिर्फ उन्हीं व्यक्तियों के या उन्हीं लोगों के, उन्हीं बच्चों से लेकर बूढ़ों तक उनके अधिकार संरक्षित किए जाए जो कि भारत के नागरिक हैं, या उनके भी जो किसी भी कारण से भारत के क्षेत्र में निवास करते हैं? जो मानव अधिकार है उसकी सार्वभौमिक घोषणा हुई। सार्वभौमिक घोषणा का मतलब यह होता है कि जो पूरे विश्व में एक समान, एक मनुष्य होने के नाते जो अधिकार दिए गए हैं वह होंगे मानव अधिकार। वो किसी देश के नागरिक होने के नाते, नस्ल के नाते या किसी धार्मिक समूह की सदस्यता के आधार पर बांधा नहीं जा सकता है, वह होता है मानव अधिकार। मानव अधिकार किसी भी राज्य के द्वारा एक सीमा में नहीं बांधा जा सकता, नहीं उसको छीना जा सकता है। राज्य का यह दायित्व होगा कि वह उन मानव अधिकार को संरक्षण प्रदान करे, उनकी रक्षा करे। तो इसके लिए एक अलग से एक निकाय की स्थापना की गई जब 1993 में मानव अधिकार संरक्षण अधिनियम लागू हुआ। यदि हम एक उदाहरण के तौर पर देख लें, हमारे जो भारतीय संविधान है उसमें मौलिक अधिकार के रूप में समता का अधिकार, स्वतंत्रता का अधिकार, शोषण के विरुद्ध अधिकार, धार्मिक स्वतंत्रता का अधिकार, संस्कृति और शिक्षा संबंधी अधिकार, संपत्ति का अधिकार, संवैधानिक उपचारों का अधिकार, ये सारे अधिकार मौलिक अधिकार के रूप में भारतीय संविधान में है। इन जो मौलिक अधिकारों की यदि व्याख्या की जाए तब उसमें जीवन जीने का जो अधिकार है वह एक मनुष्य होने के नाते सभी को प्राप्त होता है। जो मनुष्य है जरूरी नहीं है कि वो किसी विशेष देश का निवासी हो, सभी को प्राप्त होता है। यदि हम इसी को आगे अर्थान्वयन की ओर जाएं तब एक बात आती है, एक उदाहरण के तौर पर यदि हम देखें तो लैंगिक समानता की बात होती है। लैंगिक समानता हमारा ध्यान जाता है तब मताधिकार आंदोलन की बात होगी। वर्ष 1947 में जब हमारा देश आजाद हुआ उसके बाद उस समय भारत में सिर्फ को ही यह अधिकार था कि वे अपने मत का उपयोग करें। इसके लिए स्त्रियों को मत देने का अधिकार नहीं था। जब मताधिकार आंदोलन हुआ लोगों को जागरूक किया गया कि नहीं, स्त्रियां भी इस लोकतांत्रिक राष्ट्र का हिस्सा है और वे भी मत देने का अधिकार रखती हैं। जब 1951 में पहले सांसद का चुनाव हुआ तब स्त्रियों ने पहली बार अपने मत का उपयोग किया। तब क्या ऐसा कह सकते हैं कि जो स्त्रियां हैं वह पहली बार अपने मत का उपयोग की, पहली बार लोकतंत्र में उनकी इस देश के नागरिक के रूप में गणना हुई। समान कार्य के लिए समान वेतन का अधिकार भी एक लैंगिक समानता का उदाहरण है। माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय के द्वारा जो एक विशाखा बनाम राजस्थान राज्य के प्रकरण में न्याय निर्णय दिया गया उसमें कार्य क्षेत्र पर महिलाओं की सुरक्षा से संबंधित दिशा निर्देश जारी किए गए। विभिन्न स्तरों पर लैंगिक समानता को ध्यान में रखते हुए माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय ने ऐसे बहुत सारे न्याय निर्णय जारी किए जहां पर लैंगिक समानता को दृष्टिगोचर होता है। अनुच्छेद 21 में भारतीय संविधान में यदि सुनिश्चित जो जीवन जीने के अधिकार है उसकी बात करें तब हम देखते हैं कि जहां पर अभिरक्षा होती है, संरक्षण की बात होती है, जेलों की बात होती है, वहां पर माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय ने यह बताया कि पुलिस या जेल प्राधिकरण का प्रमुख उत्तरदायित्व है कि उनके संरक्षण में किसी नागरिक के जीवन के अधिकार को वंचित न किया जाए। मतलब कि मानव अधिकार वो हर स्तर पर जब हम सुबह सोकर उठते हैं और रात को सोते हैं, इवन सोने के पश्चात भी हमको मनुष्य होने के नाते जो अधिकार प्राप्त होते हैं वह मानव अधिकार होते हैं। हम इसी को संक्षेप में आगे बढ़ते हैं कि मानव अधिकार के संरक्षण में मानव अधिकार आयोग की हमारे देश में क्या भूमिका है, राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग कैसे कार्य करते हैं और उनके कार्य क्षेत्र क्या होते हैं। एक ऐसा निकाय जो मानव अधिकार आयोग है वो ऐसा निकाय है जहां पर किसी भी जाति, धर्म, लिंग, समुदाय, भाषा, समाज किसी भी चीजों को न देखते हुए समान रूप से मानव अधिकार के संरक्षण के लिए कार्य किया जाता है। जो मानव अधिकार राष्ट्रीय मानव अधिकार आयोग है और राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग है वो मानव अधिकार के संरक्षण के लिए जो कार्य करते हैं उसमें सबसे पहले हम कैसे आवेदन स्वीकार करते हैं। एक सबसे यदि गहन से गहन स्थिति में देख ले कि लोग हम तक कैसे पहुंचेंगे, तब यह जरूरी नहीं है कि पीड़ित व्यक्ति ही मानव अधिकार आयोग की शिकायत करेगा। किसी भी माध्यम से मानव अधिकार आयोग संबंधित क्षेत्राधिकार वाले मानव अधिकार आयोग को बस यह सूचना प्राप्त होना कि संबंधित व्यक्ति का मानव अधिकार का हनन हुआ है और उस पर मानव अधिकार आयोग द्वारा स्व प्रेरणा से भी संज्ञान लिया जाता है, या तो पीड़ित व्यक्ति के आवेदन पर या कोई भी ऐसा व्यक्ति जो यह जानता है कि फला जगह पर मानव अधिकार का हनन हो रहा है, तब उस पर मानव अधिकार आयोग संज्ञान लेते हैं। संज्ञान लेने के पश्चात जो राज्य शासन के किसी भी विभाग का जिस विभाग से मानव अधिकार का हनन होता है वहां से जांच प्रतिवेदन मंगाया जाता है। जो मानव अधिकार हनन की बात होती है वहां पर सबसे पहले बात ये होती है कि भारतीय संविधान के तहत देश में ऐसे बहुत सारे कानून है। भारतीय दंड संहिता है, टोली प्रताड़ना अधिनियम है, लैंगिक अपराधों के संबंध में कानून है, या दहेज प्रताड़ना के संबंध में है, उत्तराधिकार के संबंध में भिन्न भिन्न कानून है। पर जहां पर लोक सेवक द्वारा लोक कर्तव्य का भंग किया जाता है या किसी मानव अधिकार के पालन के लिए लोक सेवक का यह कर्तव्य है कि वो मानव अधिकार का संरक्षण करे और वह उसकी उपेक्षा करते हैं, तब ऐसे प्रकरणों का संज्ञान मानव अधिकार आयोग में लिया जाता है। न कि कोई यदि व्यक्ति के विरुद्ध कोई कृत्य ऐसा कर रहा है कि उसका मानवाधिकार हनन हो, उस पर लिया जाता है। यदि किसी व्यक्ति की बात आती है कि मानवाधिकार हनन हो रहा है तो उसके लिए कानून है, पर लोक सेवक द्वारा जब कर्तव्य भंग किया जाता है तब वह मानव अधिकार आयोग में संज्ञान लेकर कार्यवाही की जाती है। मानव अधिकार आयोग को सिविल न्यायालय की शक्तियां होती है। जब कोई शिकायत प्राप्त होती है तो वो उसकी जांच के लिए संबंधित विभाग से दस्तावेज भी मंगा सकते हैं, शपथ पर साक्ष्य लेखबद्ध कर सकते हैं, किसी को कार्यवाही करने के लिए अनुशंसा कर सकते हैं। हम यहाँ पर अनुशंसा को भी समझेंगे। जो आयोग की कार्यवाही होती है वह जांच के दायरे की होती है। इसमें जो अंतिम निर्णय होता है वह अंतिम निर्णय आदेश के रूप में न होकर एक अनुशंसा के रूप में होता है और वह अनुशंसा राज्य शासन को प्रेषित की जाती है कि वह उस अनुशंसा के पालन में या तो पीड़ित को क्षतिपूर्ति प्रदान करे, अनुशंसा के पालन में दोषी अधिकारियों के विरुद्ध कार्यवाही करे या अभियोजन प्रकरण दर्ज किया जाए। इस अनुशंसा के बाद राज्य शासन तद अनुरूप अनुशंसा पर कार्यवाही करती है। जो छत्तीसगढ़ मानव अधिकार आयोग है, उन्होंने प्रकरणों में संज्ञान लेने के पश्चात कुछ कार्यवाहियां की है। उसको हम एक उदाहरण के तौर पर समझेंगे कि कैसे कैसे प्रकरणों में राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग कार्य करते हैं। छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग के द्वारा रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग पर भवन निर्माण की अनुमति के समय ही उचित कार्यवाही और विधिवत कार्यवाही के निर्देश दिए गए। जब प्रदूषण मुक्त राज्य बनाने के लिए स्थायी और ठोस कदम उठाने के लिए छत्तीसगढ़ पर्यटन मंडल को पत्र प्रेषित किए गए। जब देखा गया कि शहर में बेतरतीब होर्डिंग्स लगे हुए हैं, अवैध होर्डिंग्स लगे हुए हैं, जिससे कि कई दुर्घटनाएं घटित होती है, तब होर्डिंग्स लगाने के संबंध में आयोग द्वारा नगर निगम को निर्देश जारी किए गए कि नगर निगम नियम बनाए और बेतरतीब और अवैध लगाए गए होर्डिंग्स पर नियमानुसार कार्यवाही करे। वृद्धावस्था पेंशन के विलंब होने पर विलंब के जिम्मेदार व्यक्तियों के विरुद्ध कार्यवाही करने हेतु निर्देशित किया गया। एक जो सबसे अच्छी बात है, हम लोग ये देखते हैं कि बच्चों को शिक्षा का अधिकार है, बच्चों को शिक्षा का अधिकार है, बच्चे स्कूल जाते हैं। उन बच्चों का क्या जिनके आंखें कमजोर है और उनको सामान्य रूप से स्कूल में पीछे उठा दिया जाता है या वो बच्चे को दिखाई नहीं देता है क्योंकि वो डिस्टेंस नहीं मेंटेन कर पाते हैं, तो उन बच्चों के लिए शिक्षा विभाग को यह निर्देश दिए गए कि ऐसे बच्चों को चिन्हांकित करके फ्रंट सीट पर बिठाया जाए जिनको चश्मा लगा या जिनकी आंखें कमजोर है, ताकि वो प्रॉपर रूप से देख सके। बाल संप्रेक्षण गृह में एक बच्चे ने जब आत्महत्या की तब उसमें भी मानव अधिकार आयोग ने संज्ञान लेकर उनके अभिभावकों को क्षतिपूर्ति दिए जाने की अनुशंसा की गई। दोषी जो अधिकारी थे जिनके त्रुटि के कारण से बच्चे को वो अवसर प्राप्त हुआ कि वह बाल संप्रेक्षण गृह में उसे आत्महत्या का अवसर मिला, तब उन अधिकारियों के विरुद्ध भी कार्यवाही करने की अनुशंसा आयोग द्वारा की गई। जो नर्सिंग एक्ट बने, होम नर्सिंग एक्ट बने, उस नर्सिंग एक्ट के माध्यम से चिकित्सा के क्षेत्र में बहुत ही बड़ा बदलाव आया। वह भी छत्तीसगढ़ मानव अधिकार आयोग की अनुशंसा की कार्यवाही पर की गई थी। चाहे वह मानव तस्करी का प्रकरण हो, बच्चों की शिक्षा से संबंधित प्रकरण हो, अभिरक्षा में बंदियों की मृत्यु से संबंधित प्रकरण हो, इन सभी के संबंध में मानव अधिकार आयोग द्वारा संज्ञान लिया गया है। थैंक यू सो मच श्री हरि बाबू सर, श्री सावले मैडम, आपने हमें यह अवसर प्रदान किया कि हम अपनी कुछ बातें आप लोगों के समक्ष रख सके। थैंक यू सो मच।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैम, आपका मनपूर्वक आभार भी कि आपने जो है हमारे निमंत्रण को स्वीकार किया। यह सेमिनार एक ऐसे मुद्दे पे था क्योंकि मैं गणित विभाग से संबद्ध हूँ। हमारे लिए भी एक अलग है क्योंकि थ्योरी में मुझे भी बहुत जानकारियाँ नहीं है, क्योंकि साइंस की स्टूडेंट, आप खुद स्वतः साइंस की स्टूडेंट रही हैं, बाद में आप LLB आपने किया है। लेकिन यह एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दा है और आपने बहुत सारे छत्तीसगढ़ मानव अधिकार आयोग ने लिया है। निश्चित रूप से यह संज्ञान, इसको सुनने के बाद जो भी पार्टिसिपेंट इसमें जुड़ रहे हैं, निश्चित केवल मानव अधिकार आयोग या राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग या राष्ट्रीय मानव अधिकार आयोग नहीं है। हमारे संविधान में उनको बहुत सारी शक्तियां प्रदत्त की गई हैं कि सभी नागरिकों का न्यायपूर्ण तरीके से अधिकारों की सुरक्षा को सुनिश्चित किया जाए। और निश्चित रूप से आपने जो भी निर्णय लिए हैं, हर आयोग अलग अलग अपनी तरह से कार्य पद्धति के द्वारा जो है मानव अधिकारों को सुनिश्चित करता है। हम आशा करते हैं कि आप के कार्यकाल में और आप जैसे जो भी अधिकारी हैं देश में, क्योंकि कहा ही गया है कि जो अधिकारी जो है एक बैकबोन होते हैं सिस्टम के, तो आपके माध्यम से हम सभी लोग या जो भी ग्रास रूट पे उपस्थित मजदूर से लेके एक बड़े अधिकारी को जो है आप लोग सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित करती हैं मानव अधिकार से संबंधित। तो हम पुनः आपका आभार मानते हैं और यह भरोसा चाहते हैं कि भविष्य में मानव अधिकार संबंधी मुद्दों पर यदि कभी ऐसा अवसर हमें दोबारा प्राप्त हुआ तो आप हमारे निमंत्रण को स्वीकार करेंगी और इस तरह सहयोग करेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक यू सो मच।
अब हम अपने आखिरी हैं। It's our fortune that in this seminar Professor BP Tiwari sir will deliver an lecture. So I would like to request Dr. S.S. Sinde ma'am, please introduce to Professor VP Tiwari sir.
Am I audible, sir?
जी जी जी।
Thank you, Mr. Pandey sir. Good afternoon to everybody. Myself, Dr. Shinde S.A., Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Physics, Sharat Chandra ACS College, Naigaon. It's my privilege and honor to introduce an eminent scholar of law of international frame. In fact, I introduce Professor VP Tiwari. Dr. VP Tiwari is working as a professor of law at Maharashtra National Law University, Nagpur, and chairperson of Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies. Presently, Dr. Tiwari is offering his services as the coordinator of IQAC and chairperson of Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies. Besides this, he is actively associated with member of Executive Council and Academic Council. Dr. Tiwari is faculty advisor of Moot Court Committee as a peer-reviewed students, contemporary law and policy review of the university. Dr. Tiwari had started his teaching career from National Law University, Jodhpur, and had been associated with several reputed institutions in various capacities, including as a principal of prestigious college in NCR before joining his present assignment. His area of interest is constitutional law, administrative law, women and child law, consumer protection, and human rights. Dr. Tiwari has attended more than 100 national and international conferences, seminars, and workshops. He has published more than 35 research articles in reputed journals and books. His contribution in research is worth mentioning. Professor Tiwari has delivered several invited talks as resource person at reputed institutions like National Academy of Direct Taxes, Nagpur, Administrative Staff Colleges, Guwahati, and Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi, and various HRDCs. These are some of the achievements that I can mention in this short introduction in renowned professor. We are really lucky to listen such a great professor. So I kindly request Professor Tiwari to deliver the lecture. Professor,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam, for the beautiful introduction. You have been very kind. You read my detailed introduction, and of course, this was not required. First of all, I am grateful to the organizers of this great event. I'm especially thankful to Dr. Pandey, who is IQAC coordinator, who invited me for talking to the participants of this day. I was listening to the previous speaker, Madam Jyoti Agrawalji, who is the Deputy Secretary at Chhattisgarh Human Rights Commission. Probably she has left. She spoke very well and she has covered the various dimensions of human rights. I could also listen briefly to Dr. D.M. Mule Sahab, Honorable Member, National Human Rights Commission. He also covered the wide spectrum of human rights. So there is not much to speak, but I have been given around 40 minutes time, so I'll try to interact as a teacher of law about the human rights. I'm also grateful, before going to my theme, I wanted to convey my thanks to Professor Deepa, Madam, who is the principal of R.G. Shinde Mahavidyalaya, and Sri Ravinder Chavanji, who is the Secretary of Educational Society of Naigaon. Yes, I have to thank to many people who all are involved with the organizing this beautiful seminar. However, I'll prefer to move to the topic, human rights, and how India has perceived the human rights. See, this topic has become very important, and I wanted to congratulate all those who are partnering in the in this seminar. Why this has become very, very important? Because the last few months we have witnessed two very important events at international level, where we are required to rethink about the human rights again. I'm just referring to events, but there are a number of events where we need to come together, discuss human rights, and how to achieve the human rights. The most recent two incidents which I wanted to bring to the learned audience of this gathering. The recent Russia and Ukraine war. Now see what is happening. All those who are grown up, they know how difficult it is to have a shelter. There was a very beautiful movie, Roti Kapda Aur Makan, and I will request my dear students see the old movie Roti Kapda Aur Makan. How difficult it is for us to find out all the three. And Russia takes hardly a few seconds to destroy the beautiful buildings in Ukraine. What about the human rights of the people? You have seen that Operation Ganga was to be launched by India. We have not been able to come out of the COVID effect. Our economy has gone deep down. Thanks to the farmers of this country, that at least we could not hear that people died out of hunger. The government was also kind and cooperative. All the state governments, especially Maharashtra, central government, they did very good job, commendable job. And we fought with COVID very nicely. And when the time was coming up for accelerating the economic growth, the Russia-Ukraine effect is creating difficulty for us. Petroleum costs have already gone down, very high. Pandeyji, am I audible or not? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Friends
Audible.
are telling me.
Continue.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is one event. If the prices go very high, then you think what will happen about the people who do not have houses in our country. The government will not be able to look after the welfare activities, and India is a welfare country. The government is supposed to look after the welfare country. I'm able to recall one of the poems of a very great Hindi poet, that is Tripathi ji, Nirala. So, Nirala ji has written, वह तोड़ती पत्थर उसे देखा इलाहाबाद के पथ पर न छायादार कोई वृक्ष. I'm not able to recall the whole poem, but the meaning that there was a poor lady crushing the stones on the national roads at 46 temperature, and nothing was there for her. Yet another poem I am able to record. स्वानों को मिलता दूध भात, भूखे बच्चे कुलाते हैं, माँ की छाती से चिपक चिपक जाड़े की रात बिताते हैं. There is huge difficulty, and if the war crisis is coming up, what will happen? Little before that, we have seen what has happened in Afghanistan. Lot of minority people from Afghanistan were required to be brought in our country and given shelter. Even before that, if you happen to see the Rohingyas disturbance, even before that, you see how many migrants have come to the Assam from Bangladesh, and whole culture of Northeast is being diluted, and they are fighting that because of the influx of the illegal migrants from neighboring countries, maybe from Burma, from Bangladesh, and even sometimes from Tibet, etc., their own life is becoming miserable. This juncture has become very important for discussion on human rights. And I congratulate Amit Pandey and all of you for organizing timely on this issue. The question is, what is human rights? Very nicely and in very lucid manner, Madam Jyoti has explained what is human rights. So I'm not going to talk much about that. But yes, in brief, I wanted to tell that everything which is essential for our full development falls within the domain of the human rights. Whatever is needed, if you need oxygen, and if you are not given oxygen, that is violation of human rights. If you need education, and if you are not given education, that is violation of human rights. If you need food, if you are not given food, that is violation of human rights. If we need to express ourselves in any form, and if you are not permitted to express ourselves or influence the people, then that is violation of human rights. Now, human rights in modern trend, firstly, I will have to speak because 200-300 की गुलामी के बाद हम लोग गुलाम हो गए हैं, और हम लोगों की गुलामी मानसिकता, जब भी कोई नया टॉपिक की बात होती है तो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज से न शुरू करें तो पूरा ही नहीं होता. India is a culture of human rights. I'll briefly touch that also, but I'm not having much time. I'll finish on time, so I'll not be able to cover both. But the modern history of human rights, it starts from the West. We have diversed our Indian tradition and society thanks to the first government which was formed in our country. Western culture is not, full of human rights. Rather, it's full of violation of human rights. And that's why they thought that it's very important for them to have some legal protection for the human rights. And the first legal protection which comes to our mind is the Magna Carta, which was signed in 1215 for the first time. And then several times it was signed by all the kings were starting, who became the kings. So what is the Magna Carta? Magna Carta was power to control the king, that you cannot tax without consultation, you cannot go on war, certain powers were limited. That was the first. And then again, the history of England speaks, a lot of struggles took place between the commons and the kings and barons, and ultimately the commons prevailed. Petition of Rights and Bill of Rights in England were given to the people of that country. And then came in France. France was also having a lot of violation of human rights. Henry VIII or something like that, all of you must be knowing how brutal king he was. And you have to read the history of Henry VIII. You can read what happened recently. One of the persons, and I will give this homework to the student to find out, उसको एसिड में डाल के जला दिया गया, उसकी हड्डी और पसली भी नहीं मिली. At the instance behest of some king. That person has come from America to some other country, and he went for some visa extension or some official work, and then he was caught. and the student find out, you know what has been taking place during the regime of the Saddam Hussein, or what the IS people are doing. So these violations were not only at that point of time and at this point of their time they are there, but at this point of time there are very pockets which are violating the human rights. During those time, it was all the kings, and there used to be competition, like North Korean king or president or Hitler, what do you call him? I was hearing when his father died, the procession was going on, and he told that all those who are not weeping should be killed. So there was no right at all, and that's why the French people, they got Declaration of Rights of Men and Citizens in 1789. It was a similar time when Americans, they revolted against the Britishers, got independence, and they framed their constitution, and they thought that human rights are so important that American Constitution, my dear students, I think they may not be from the last student, they should read it. Just 7 articles in American Constitution, small article, adopted in 1787, but there were no human rights in that. There were no Bill of Rights there. There were no fundamental rights there. So they thought that the governments are all alike, whether being ruled by the Britishers or by our own people, the governments cannot be trusted, and hence you must guarantee the written human rights. And the Constitution was amended immediately after the adoption. And first 10 constitutional amendments were devoted to the fundamental rights. They are known as Bill of Rights. First 10 constitutional amendments. And at that point of time, America did not have equality. Slavery was one of their rights. Keeping slave was like keeping property, like nobody can take away your property. Similarly, slaves were the property. And then that country has to go for the civil war. There was a case decided in 1858. And that led to the civil war. And civil war lasted for many years. 6 lakh to 7 lakh people were killed. Officially, unofficially, we do not know. You can think of how many people were displaced. And then came 13th Constitutional Amendment in America that abolished slavery. And then came 14th Constitutional Amendment, which brought in equality. And then also there was no equality in America. In order to abolish equality, even after having written in the Constitution, that was the formal equality, not the substantive equality, they coined separate but equal class. What is separate but equal class? If you create a hospital for whites, you will create a similar hospital for blacks. So blacks cannot go in the hospitals meant for the whites. If you have a bus for taking them from Nanded to Pune, if that bus is for white, another bus will run for blacks. Or the bus will be divided. One portion, one gate for whites, another gate for blacks, with identical facilities. That was separate but equal. The moment you segregate, that means you're not equal. And when this was challenged in the American Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of America did not find any mistake in that, and they held that separate but equal clause is constitutionally permissible. My dear friends, it has taken years for them to say that this is not permissible. And I always quote one story, though that is fabricated story, that is not the true story. And the story is that there was a class, as it is, the boundary was there in between. One side black students, another side white students. Fortunately, unfortunately, that black student was all alone a student in that class. And whenever in break time, he wanted to go and play with the white students, the teacher used to stop. No, you are black, you cannot go towards white people. And then that child started weeping. I'm not permitted to play with the others. And that is a violation of equality. Finally, in 1954, that first case was decided in 1897. And after 57 years, in 1954, another case came up, Brown versus Board of Education. My dear students must read it, for it's very interesting cases and historical cases. So At this point of time, the Supreme Court of America happened to say that yes, separation is a violation of equality and you cannot separate. Even women in that country, they did not have any right. And I was surprised, my dear participants of this conference, that when French declared the equality, when they said that everybody is born equal, they were not treating everybody equal. If you read the heading itself, the French declaration says rights of men and citizen. And I wanted to emphasize that men did not include females. So where was the violation of the equal right? In the Western countries. Then two consecutive world wars, the First World War and the Second World War, compelled them. The Roosevelt, Churchill met and they decided what are the causes for violation of the human rights. What are the causes for wars? And then they came to know that the system of colonization is the root cause of violation of human rights and wars. And then they decided that United Nations should be established and all the colonies should be free. India got freedom because of that Atlantic Charter. Because after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they decided that we should stop colonizing. And they thought that our succeeding generations should not suffer from the scourge of war. And then the preamble of the United Nations says that the main purpose of United Nations is to save the succeeding generations from the scourge of the war. And then they said that everybody should be permitted to develop themselves. Unless they are permitted to develop themselves, they will keep fighting. And then Mrs. Roosevelt became the president who wanted to find out what human rights are required to be given. And my dear friends, it was on 10th December 1948 that World Human Rights was signed. Human Rights, Declaration for Human Rights. What was the declaration? Now at this moment of time, no country was in a position to promise that I promise to ensure human rights to my people. Then what to do? If you cannot legally give legally binding assurance, then it was thought that let us try to have assurance from you. At least you declare and will consider that this is gentleman's promise and you will try to protect the human rights. See what happened? 1948, people were not ready to promise. So it was called Declaration of International Human Rights. And that was the first instrument of human rights. And based on that, a lot of human rights have been introduced. All of you know that our constitution was being made at that point of time. And hence we tried to adopt all the human rights which were being given at UDHR level, Universal Declaration of Human Rights level. And of course, that was developed at later point of time. Equality before law and equal protection clause was given in Article 7 of UDHR. Our Constitution, Article 14, talks about these rights. Now, I'm not going to discuss this. I'm going to discuss one of the very important articles, that is Article 2, Life and Personal Liberty, which finds its place in Article 19 of Universal Human Rights Declaration and Article 21 to our Constitution. Now, Article 21 has been interpreted to include all the rights. It's a big umbrella under which every right can be taken. But our Supreme Court was a little hesitant in interpreting in a nice manner in the initial days. And one A.K. Gopalan, this is a very interesting case. And if some students are interested even from mathematics, law is also logic, my dear friends. Mathematics is also logic. So I think there can be a close relationship between the mathematics department and Pandey. You can encourage your student to read the law also. So what happened? A.K. Gopalan was arrested under preventive detention. And when he happened to move to the Supreme Court of India, the Supreme Court gave a very narrow definition of the word used in Article 21 to the Constitution of India, which talks about that no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. The Supreme Court of India at that point of time said that the procedure established by law has limited our powers. The procedure established by law has limited our powers, and if there is a procedure made by the government, then they can take away your life and liberty. Then the question was, there is no justice in the procedure? If the parliament makes a law that Professor V.P. Tiwari should be killed without any reason, then Supreme Court will not give any remedy to Dr. V.P. Tiwari. And Supreme Court happened to say that yes, this is the rule of this country. Dr. Ambedkar has made this type of constitution and we cannot help it. My dear friend, this perception could not last for long. And the Supreme Court has to change its definition. Why it has to change definitions, I'll tell a little later. But before that, again, another case I wanted to tell. There was one ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla. Shivkant Shukla, the mother expired. He was again kept in preventive detention, and he was not permitted to go to attend the last rites of his mother. And when he happened to move to the Supreme Court, the judges of the Supreme Court told that the Constitution of India is the whole repository of all your rights. And because there is emergency and the enforcement of your fundamental rights are suspended, you cannot have a right to life and liberty, and we cannot give you any relief. It was surprising that Supreme Court refused to even test whether somebody has committed some mistake or not. Even if Gaddamwar Sahab is arrested, so sorry sir, I am taking your name, forgive me, you are not arrested, then his advocate will not be able to tell to the High Court, Supreme Court, that sir, I have not committed any mistake. This is the law of this country, that you do not have a right to go and prove your innocence also in the Supreme Court of India? But this is what was happened in ADM Jabalpur's case. It was so sad and so surprising case. One judge of the Supreme Court, I salute him even today, Justice H.R. Khanna, who did not bother, who did not got, moved by Mrs. Indira Gandhi's terror. And he decided that right to life and liberty is not dependent on the Constitution of India, which came on 26 January 1950. Rather, it's a natural right, and we had right to life even before the Constitution came into existence. What a beautiful judgment he has given. He said that Constitution has accepted the fact that we have a right to life and liberty. It has guaranteed the natural rights which God has given to us just by being the human beings. Of course, he had to pay the price. He was not made the Chief Justice. Indira Gandhi got annoyed. She did not tolerate anybody saying no to her. And the most deserving candidate for the post of Chief Justice of India was denied this post. He was not permitted to, he was not promoted to the Chief Justice position. But then, if we have to name around 48 Chief Justices, and even if you ask those Chief Justices, everybody will say that nobody commanded the respect which H.R. Khanna commands even today. In between, there happened to happen something which provoked the Supreme Court of India to protect the human rights. They came to protect the human rights because of something happened to them also. And very interesting story I'll share. And the organizers, please tell me. I'll finish after your indication. I'll finish in 2 minutes. But I'm tempted to speak because I'm able to see that there are a good number of students who are listening to me. So if you permit me, I'll speak another 10 minutes. Pandeyji, can I speak for 10 minutes? I think I'm speaking in vacuum. Nobody is listening to me.
Sir, you can.
Namdev Sahab, can you hear me? Organizers have gone on tea break.
Sir. Sir,
Am I audible or not?
sir, we are listening, and please continue for another 10 minutes.
Okay. I thought that
Yes.
after putting the tape record on, you people have gone for a break.
No, certainly not, sir. There is a problem that, the organizer has to unmute. That is the problem.
Okay, perfectly. Thank you so
No,
much.
sir. No, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Section
I'm
clear
going
है
to
कुछ
tell
प्रॉब्लम
you
है
a
आप
very
क्वेश्चन
interesting
विचार
story.
सर पूछ सकते हैं सर कुछ
I'm
प्रॉब्लम
going to tell you a very interesting story why the Supreme Court started protecting the human rights.
Dr.
It so
Deshmukh, just
happened
one.
that
अलाउड सर अलाउड किया नहीं सबको
let
अलाउड
me
किया सर कुछ
complete, then
प्रॉब्लम
you
है
can ask the
क्वेश्चन
question.
पूछ सकते हैं सर
All of you requested to mute yourself. I'm continuing in 5 minutes, concluding in 5 minutes. There is a very interesting story. There is a very interesting story. I can speak very loud, and even if you talk slowly, I'm not going to get disturbed. So, I'm a teacher since 90. The Bar Council permitted 90 students to be in the class. So around 100 students we used to manage. So that is not a difficulty for us. Here only 70 are there. But I wanted to tell the very interesting story. What happened? It was around 60s that one person published a story which was prohibited by the Speaker of Uttar Pradesh Legislative Council for publication. And then that person was arrested. The name was Kesav Singh. And when he was arrested, he happened to move to the High Court of Allahabad. And two judges, they granted stay on the arrest of that Kesav Singh, which was authorized by the Speaker of the Uttar Pradesh Lok Sabha Assembly. Now the Speaker of the Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly got, right? I am the superpower. I have arrested. Who are the judges of the High Court to stay the warrant which was issued by me? And I think many of you may not be knowing that Speaker of Uttar Pradesh issued the arrest warrant for the judges of Allahabad High Court. Arrest those judges who has stayed my order for keeping in prison to Mr. Kesav Singh. Judges were to be arrested by the order of the Speaker of the Legislative Council, my dear friends. And then, if judges are not spared, what is the capacity of an advocate? The Speaker told that advocate, how the hell he dared to file the petition? Arrest him also. So, two judges and the advocate who has filed the petition, they were, frightened by the order of the assembly. I'm not going to tell the rest of the story, but this is one of the turning point where the Supreme Court of India thought that no, we have to interpret the Constitution in different manner. Otherwise, even our survival shall be at stake. Another interesting story I'll tell you. Another interesting story is Mrs. Indira Gandhi lost the election in 71. She did not lose the election. In fact, I have to recollect myself and tell that she won the election by using unfair methods of elections. She did not win by using free and fair method of election. Raj Narayan challenged that election in the Allahabad High Court, and once Justice Sinha declared her election to be unconstitutional. And then she brought the 39th constitutional amendment, and she told that my election cannot be challenged in any court of law. If my election officer declares that I have won the election, then there's no question. Nobody can question. My dear friends, even the High Court and Supreme Court cannot question, cannot decide the dispute. So if you declare that XYZ, to whom the country is rejecting as a prime minister, shall be permanent prime minister of India, and then we'll have to accept that. So all these things, an emergency and violation of human rights, they changed the mood of the Supreme Court. And then came 78. And Menka Gandhi's passport was confiscated because she was to appear in an inquiry, Shah Commission's inquiry, for the atrocities committed during the emergency period. At this point of time, the Supreme Court got the opportunity to decide that if we allow the legislature and executive to do whatever they wanted to do, there shall be disaster for the human rights. And they came up and they changed the narrative which they set up in the A.K. Gopalan's case in 1951, that if there is a procedure, the government can take any action, they can play with your liberty. Now in 78, while deciding Menka Gandhi, they are saying that procedure must be just, fair and reasonable. And if the procedure is not just, fair and reasonable, we'll struck down that procedure. That procedure is no procedure at all. In A.K. Gopalan, they said that if there is procedure, you can be killed also. Now they are saying, no, the procedure will have to be just, fair and reasonable. And that has opened the floodgate of human rights in our country. Thereafter, hundreds and thousands of cases have been decided, some by the individuals, some by the organizers, some by way of PILs, and all the rights, first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation. And yesterday I was talking to a human rights expert who is with us, Professor Silpa Jain, and she happened to tell me that there is a fifth generation human rights also, though I have not read the fifth generation human rights, but I'll definitely want my dear students who are present today to read the fifth generation human rights. So my dear friends, all of you know various human rights. The previous speaker, Professor Srimati Jyoti Agrawal, has also spoken about the human rights. Mule sir has talked about human rights. I'm not going to talk much about the human rights, but I must tell you, there are a number of cases where all the rights have been interpreted and protected by the Supreme Court of India, like right to work, equal pay for equal work, right to live with the dignity and a decent standard of life, right to marry, which has been, of course, of great concern, right to put on any dress of your choice. But we have to remember the French declaration that your liberty ends where my nose begins. Your liberty ends where my nose begins. In the end, I'll take 2 minutes time to tell that no right can be unrestricted right. You have a right doesn't mean that you'll disturb others. And it has been culture of our country that on the name of rights, we are trying to take law and order in our hands. Sometimes we'll stop the traffic. Sometimes we'll burn the buses. Sometimes we'll disturb others. And that is not permissible. If you read the last speech of Dr. Ambedkar, he has said that in a free country like ours, there is no place for protest. There's no place for protest. We were protesting like Dr. Bhagat, not Dr. Bhagat, Shahid Bhagat Singh, or Dr. Pandit Chandrasekhar Azad, or maybe like Mahatma Gandhi. But that was needed because the country was being governed by people who were 5,000 kilometers away and they were not listening to us. But today, after 5 years, the government comes to your doors and you have to decide that whether you have passed the test or not. Recently, Yogi got elected because I was reading that the first year when he became the chief minister, there were 200 children died because of some disease I do not remember, in his own Gorakhpur. And thereafter he ensured that we are not able to read any death in that Gorakhpur because of that disease. No child died. Exceptions are there. Our own Chief Minister of Maharashtra, during COVID times, he worked and ensured silent work as the Chief Minister. I'm very, very, very happy that such Chief Minister Maharashtra is having, though without much authority, much power, what you call majority in the House. Maharashtra could handle the situation. Otherwise, the situation would have gone far, far bad, worst. So, my dear friends, we should try to understand that our rights are not unlimited and the social rights, group rights, country rights are above our individual rights because society is above us. If the society is not there, we cannot have. If country is not there, can you think of a right in Afghanistan? I was hearing a girl. She was praying the government of India to be brought back from Ukraine. And when she came from Ukraine, she was landed at some city in Bombay or Delhi. And from Delhi, she was to go to her home. And probably government could not provide the facility because the aircraft went back to the Ukraine. And she was complaining with the government of India that you are not sending me to my house. What the hell this is? You have been brought from war zone and now you wanted to be provided the president of India's house. That is what is happening in your country, my dear friends. So we should try to respect the rights of others also. We should try to follow the traditional Indian culture of duty. If I perform my duty, all your rights are preserved. If you perform your duty, all my rights are preserved. And we should try to follow one of the duties which have been included by Mrs. Gandhi by 42nd Constitutional Amendment in Article 51A. And that duty says that we must develop scientific temper for anything and everything. And then we must try to work individually and collectively for our excellence. Whatever excellence we are having, we must try to develop. And if we all become excellent, who can stop the country from becoming excellent and Word Guru, as we are dreaming that India once again should be the superpower and Word Guru. Thank you, the organizers, for giving the opportunity to me to speak. I hope that all of you, India one day will become Word Guru, world leader, and most powerful country as we had been earlier. Thank you. Over to all of you organizers.
धन्यवाद सर, आपने बहुत ही एक बड़े आयाम पे जो है चीजों को रखा है और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण चीजें हैं कि चीजें फैक्ट के साथ थी। ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट, ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट, जो कि आपसे तो अपेक्षा ही है, आप लीगल एक जो भी फैक्ट है मतलब उसमें कहीं भी गलती होने की गुंजाइश नहीं है। और अल्टीमेट जो है ह्यूमन राइट्स जो है जब हम लोग आगे फेस करते हैं तो चाहे NHRC हो चाहे स्टेट की HRCs हो, फैक्ट के ऊपर ही जाती है। आप अपने राइट्स की बात करते हैं तो आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से बाइंड भी होते हैं। थॉट्स अलग हो सकते हैं, परसेप्शंस अलग हो सकते हैं, लेकिन अल्टीमेट जो है जब ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट सुनता है तो बस हमारे संविधान में क्या लिखा गया है। और आपने सब
पांडे जी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही लगता है।
अलग एक्सपर्टाइज होते हैं जहाँ पे हम लोग। सर आवाज आ पा रही है सर? सर
अब आ रही है, अब आ रही है।
जी सर। तो आपने सर एक बहुत ही कम टाइम में लेकिन एक बहुत ही लार्ज स्केल पे चीजों को रखा है। और इस सेमिनार में जो लोग भी सुने, बेसिकली मैं एज ए मैथमेटिक्स का विद्यार्थी भी हूँ, टीचर जो भी हूँ, एक विद्यार्थी हूँ अभी, मुझे बहुत सारी चीज़ों को सीखने का अवसर मिला है। तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैं अपनी तरफ से पूरे महाविद्यालय की तरफ से करता हूँ कि आपने जो है हमारे निमंत्रण को स्वीकार किया। और साथ ही महाविद्यालय के प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर के हरिबाबू सर भी आपसे इंटरेक्ट होना चाहते हैं, तो मैं अनुरोध करता हूँ कि डॉक्टर के हरिबाबू सर आप सर अपने शब्दों को रखें। सर
प्रोफेसर तिवारी जी, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Sir. Sir, very good afternoon, and it has been really wonderful. And it was a feast to our anxiety, sir, to know about this particular, things in this arena. You cited even from, real life. Your statements were audacious, and, your effusions were really touching our heart and mind also. Okay. So I was also reminded of, the Machiavelli, as, you are making exceptional effusions, that you cannot teach law to a hungry man. But as you said, you cannot, enjoy your, absolute rights with a cap, without a cap. Sorry. So that you also, made us aware about, our duties also. Thank you very much, sir, to have you here, such a wonderful man. I thank, in fact, Mr. Amit and Dr. Mane sir, for having invited such a, great people for this, national seminar. And I also appreciate, sir, as you know, that, most of the students were attending this. You asked for, you sought, extra time and you expressed. That is the quality of a professor, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you, sir, for the nice words. God bless you.
Yes. Yes.
And I hope that you shall continue doing good works.
Exactly. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Bye-bye, sir.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
बाय सर, बाय। अब हम लोग अपने लास्ट सेशन की तरफ आ गए हैं, वोट ऑफ थैंक्स जो है। तो वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के पहले मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की तरफ से और IQAC कोऑर्डिनेटर होने के नाते परंडा कॉलेज के IQAC कोऑर्डिनेटर डॉक्टर माने सर का बहुत ही हृदय से जो है आपका अभिनंदन एवं धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूं कि आपके सहयोग से यह कार्यक्रम हम लोग यहाँ तक ले आ पाए हैं। हम पूरे इंटायर वहाँ की फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को और एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को भी IQAC कोऑर्डिनेटर होने के नाते आपका मन से जो है आभार मानते हैं कि आपने जो है इसमें एक
त्याला आपल्याकडून जावं लागते त्या पलीकडे जावं लागते आपण ती घर पाहिजे गेलते
कवडे सर
आणि ते बी नाही का कशाचा माहिती आहे का ते पांढर रस्ता
कवडे सर
हाँ सर
आप इन सर का आप बंद कीजिए, सर का बंद कर दीजिए थोड़ा सा, सर की तरफ से आवाज आ रहा है। नागरे सर आप म्यूट हो जाइए सर, आवाज आ रही है।
कोण आहे हो चांगलं अहमदपूरला कुठे चांगलं मिळेल?
हेलो
अहमदपूरला कोण आहे सर?
नागरे सर, नागरे सर, नागरे सर
दिला होता
हाँ सर
अहमदपूरला
आप म्यूट करिए ना।
नाही मला चांगले पाहिजे बघा, माहिती गोसाव का जायचं वाळू आपली बीड बघायची खनखन वाजवायची ही वाजली बट्टी एक दुसरी भरती एक तसं केल्यावर माणूस 5-10% करणारच कोणी असो तुम्ही किती 30 मार्काला असू द्या मला काय केलं सर
सर बालाजी सर
होत नाही मोजून दाखवतात तुम्हाला हा
बालाजी गवाड़े सर। ओके सर उन्होंने म्यूट कर दिया उनको।
ओके सर। फिर मैं डॉक्टर NP सानप सर से अनुरोध करता हूं कि आप वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के सेशन को सर टेक ओवर करें। डॉक्टर NP सानप सर।
यस आई एम ऑडिबल सर।
जी सर
आई एम ऑडिबल।
यस सर यू आर।
जी सर।
ओके आई एम डॉक्टर सानप नामदेव पंडित राव। आई एम हियर फॉर वोट ऑफ थैंक्स। Very good afternoon to all of you. Education Society Naigaon, Sharashchandra Arts, Commerce and Science College Naigaon, Department of IQ Act and Shikshan Maharshi, Guruvarye, R.G. Shinde Mahavidyalaya, Paranda, Maharashtra, Department of IQ Act jointly organized one-day national seminar on human rights. Honorable Mr. Vasantrao Balwantrao Chauhan, ex-MLA, and President, Education Society Naigaon, President, Nanded District Cooperative Bank, Nanded, Maharashtra, has kindly given valuable time to this one-day national seminar. We thank you, sir. Honorable Mr. Sanjay Ji Nimbalkar, Secretary, Sri Bhavani Shikshan Prasarak Mandal, Paranda, Maharashtra, also attended this one-day national seminar. We thank you, sir. Today's inaugurator, Honorable Dr. Daneshwarji Mule, sir, Honorable Member, National Human Rights Commission, India, though very busy in his schedule, has kindly spent his time for this national seminar. Thank you, sir. Honorable Professor Ravindra Vasantrao Chauhan, Secretary, Education Society Naigaon, also attended this one-day national seminar. We thank you, sir. We express our gratitude Professor Dr. Mukta Mahajan, Director, School of Languages, Studies and Research Center, Kavitri Vainabai Chaudhary, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon, for his glorious presence for this national seminar. We thank today's guest of honor, Honorable Srimati Jyoti Agrawal, Deputy Secretary, Chhattisgarh Human Rights Commission, for sparing her valuable time. On behalf of Sharashchandra Arts, Commerce and Science College, Naigaon, I thank today's resource person, Honorable Dr. Vijay Pratap Tiwari, Professor of Law, Maharashtra National Law University, Nagpur, India. We have heard today. We express our regard to you, sir. Dr. K. Haribabu, sir, and Dr. Deepa Savle, ma'am, respectively Principal of Sharashchandra Arts, Commerce and Science College, Naigaon, Maharashtra, and Shikshan Maharshi, Guruvarye, R.G. Shinde Mahavidyalaya, Paranda, Maharashtra, India, have kindly agreed on holding this seminar jointly. We thank you both. I cannot forget valuable contribution given by Mr. Amit Pandey sir, IQI coordinator, Dr. V.V. Kaude sir, NAC coordinator, Sharat Chandra, Arts, Commerce and Science College, Nayagaon, Maharashtra, Dr. M.L. Mane sir, IQI coordinator, Shikshan Maharshi, Guruvarya R.G. Shinde Mahavidyalaya, Paranda, Maharashtra. Organizing committee members, all participants, teaching and administrative staff, students, and every person for their contribution for the success of national seminar. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day. Within 5 minutes, we will send feedback link for your certificate. Within 2 to 4 days, you get your certificate. Thank you once again. Over to Pandey sir.
धन्यवाद सानप सर. लास्ट कार्यक्रम ऑफिशियली कंक्लूड हो चुका है, लेकिन हम सभी लोग आभारी हैं सरचंद महाविद्यालय की तरफ से, परंडा कॉलेज का, कि आपके सहयोग से यह कार्यक्रम अपनी ऊंचाइयों को प्राप्त किया और भविष्य में ऐसी सहयोग के माध्यम से हम लोग जो भी सोशल एक्टिविटी से रिलेटेड कार्य होंगे और इन सब मुद्दों पे जो है जैसे भी कार्य हो सकते हैं हम लोग मिलकर करेंगे. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद पूरे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को और वहाँ के टीचिंग नॉन टीचिंग स्टाफ को. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माने सर.
ओके, थैंक यू सर. चलिए हाँ सर, अभी मैं आपको कॉल कर देता हूँ. फीडबैक लिंक ग्रुप पे शेयर कर दीजिए. सर्टिफिकेट का भी अभी
माने सर आवाज कम आ रही है.
ओके ओके सर, हम डिस्कस कर लेते हैं सर. पांडे जी.
जी जी सर. ओके जी जी सर.
ओके, थैंक यू ऑल.
ठीक है.
ओके
ओके, थैंक यू सर.
ओके, थैंक यू.